Hello, everyone. This is Sujit Christy, President ISC2 Colombo chapter again, bringing you a very interesting fireside chat. This time around, we're going to be talking on API economy, and API security. And to have this conversation with me today, I have a very prominent, experienced Chief Information Security Officer and a Data Protection Officer, and he is Ramesh Gurram. He is also a CISSP, and he has various other certifications from other industry recognized bodies. And he has served various large financial institutions in India and counts over 25 plus years of experience. And I'm looking forward to a very insightful conversation with Ramesh. Ramesh, thank you so much for making time and spending time to have this conversation on APIs. So Ramesh, to jump directly into the conversation, why is everybody so focused on API, or they call it the API economy? What is your take on this?
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Sujit, for having me here for this interesting topic of API security. Yes, APIs are, I always believe that it is like a nerve system for this digitization or fintech revolution, whatever is happening in the world. Because it has given so much of thirst and boost to this digital explosion of fintechs and collaboration between different companies for making their businesses so enriching and so appealing to the users and customers that everything happens seamlessly using these APIs. So that's why I believe APIs are like a nerve system for this digital economy, as well as a kind of boon to the IT developers and business leaders to make their businesses more proactive.
Absolutely, Ramesh. Unless otherwise it's going to bring productivity, facilitate transformation, people are not going to focus on it. And very especially, you spoke about the fintech industry, and you also said that it is aiding the transformation and collaboration with various other organizations. So when there is adoption of API, and the natural conversation would be, how secure is it? Is it secure? And if it is not secure, why was it not secure? Can you walk us through your experience in this particular space?
So for a CISO or any security leader, the growing digitization is definitely it brings a very big threat landscape, and API becomes one part of that increased threat landscape because for two reasons. One is it is very huge in number and in its reach to the digital connectivity between two different companies or various, for that matter, different entities of a business. Number two, this being a kind of not being a front end or a kind of back end running kind of a the IT application, people have very less visibility on that API integrations and API ecosystem. So this thereby gives a big challenge to security leaders to have full control over this API ecosystem and ensure that it doesn't pose any digital risk or cyber risk to the businesses. So security of APIs is now very much important, and it is very much essential to be taken care on utmost priority.
That brings us to a very interesting question. You said visibility, right? And typically we keep hearing about innovation, and we say that people should be empowered so that they can innovate and help fast track transformation. So you being a CISO and also a DPO, Do you have any concerns, or would you assume that this also probably would introduce shadow IT in organizations?
Yes, sometimes see if as I just mentioned,
Mhm.
visibility is the most important aspect of API security. The moment you put a very popular saying we have, right? What you cannot see, you cannot manage. So
Absolutely.
with that, if you have full control of the what API ecosystem you have, it is easy for security people and IT people to handle it and ensure security is in place. The question what you have asked about is shadow IT.
Mhm.
If that visibility is not there, if some developer is spinning up a API without proper approvals and proper change management process, it goes out of the vision of the IT as well as security, and thereby there won't be very less controls and less monitoring of that particular APIs as part of shadow IT, and it becomes a open door for cyber threats and cyber attacks. So that visibility part, as I mentioned, API inventory, giving a full visibility of APIs internal, external, will become a good starting point to ensure API security.
Absolutely. Ramesh, APIs are part of the fintech ecosystem, right? And
Yes.
fintech ecosystem are heavily regulated. So on one side, we are talking about visibility. On the other side, we are talking about compliance. So what is your experience, or what is that one or two things which you would want your peers to consider, or the budding people in this space to take into consideration that they could actually be compliant, also ensure security?
Yeah, that's really a very interesting question, Sujit, because developing, spinning of applications, deploying, and rolling out to operations is very easy task for IT people and their peers to make the businesses up and running in a matter of days or months. But the most important part, as I said, security is most important, number one. Number two, this security linked with regulatory and legal obligations and legal requirements. Like we have so many stringent regulations coming up from RBI, SEBI, and Government of India. A lot of IT activity related aspects are coming up. And we have one more new beast coming into this a kind of regulatory ambit is data privacy. So
Absolutely.
even in India also, DPDP Act has been enacted in the month of August last year, and
Mhm.
anytime we are going to get the ground rules and actual timelines to comply with.
Yeah.
So considering that, as we know that APIs are sharing so much of business data, so much of critical business plans, or I won't say plans, business critical data and personally identifiable data,
Mhm.
and a lot of other data which becomes a kind of critical for the businesses. So regulators mandating and leaving no stone to ensure the stakeholders' interests are protected, data privacy is ensured. So there are long list of controls and long list of regulatory requirements we have to put in place. So for me as a CISO and DPO, the first priority will be the protecting the stakeholders' interest and ensuring that whatever data is flowing in and out, regulatory requirement is met without any compromise. So we have to put in place what is a what is a purpose, like data privacy terms. We have to be very sure what level of data you are gathering from the customers. What is its legality? At what level we are going to use it? Are we transferring or sharing the data with some other entities or some other companies? So these are some of the areas we have to be very meticulous while building our applications and while building our APIs in order to ensure security as well as privacy is taken care in line with regulatory and legal requirements.
So, Ramesh, there's a lot at stake right now, right? One
Yes.
is the stakeholder expectation, regulators' expectation, internally the management expectation. But when we look at an application, we are looking at multiple aspects. Now, even when you're talking about the PII data, we are talking about consent, we're talking about the purpose of collection of data, how long you want to retain the data removal process, and there is so many aspects to it.
Yeah.
Right. And also when we are looking at an ecosystem, and when you're looking at an ecosystem which is going to go beyond the organization, you are now dealing with people sometimes you may have no direct control over.
Yeah.
Right. So they could be, connecting with you and having access to your data, or, have access to information which probably gets spun off from your systems. Or even for that matter, somebody within our organization could also spin off an application, use APIs to interact and take it to another place and then start working on that data. So the question I keep battling with, traditional days, the security team or the IT team had total control over. They said, okay, here's my data center, here's my server, this is what it is. You put the firewalls around, and that's it. Bang, you secured the data. How are people like you and your peers in the industry coping with this transformation? Because there's no rule book to say this is how you need to do it. Any tips you would want to share, Ramesh? There's no right or wrong answer, right? It's all about.
Agree. Yeah, it's purely my experience and my way of handling the things.
Yeah.
The point of discussion, most important aspect about your point is how to ensure that business objectives are met, taking what we call a kind of buy-in from all the stakeholders in the organization, and ensuring that digitization is helping the companies to meet their business targets. So the best way to handle such scenarios is collaboration and cross-functional relationships, discussing with the right stakeholders at right time what is the expectation from each other and how to ensure IT is enabling the business, and thereby what do I generally understand is any business requirement starts from the business team, and they do discuss with the IT stakeholders and other stakeholders to make a plan how that can be achieved through technology, and then in that entire ecosystem of discussions, security plays a vital role. So in that discussions, what I would strongly believe and carry out is putting across what are the expectations from the security and what are the regulatory and legal requirements, and being part of that journey right from the beginning. That is most important. Security cannot be a after stitch or a kind of afterthought, because which becomes very costly in terms of man and machine hours. So that way, whenever any digital initiation is taken, IT business stakeholders, IT stakeholders, and security, and all other stakeholders should work like a in a tandem, in a collaborative way, ensuring that all aspects of business, regulatory, security, IT, and risk management aspects are taken care.
That's going to be a huge challenge, isn't it? Because dealing with machines is much more easier. We're going to be dealing with humans with emotions, humans with expectations, and sometimes preconceived notions as well, right? And the challenge for all CISOs out there is going to be the managing that expectations, the business expectation, the DPO's expectation, and interpreting the regulator's requirements and striking a balance. Because I think we always say that sometimes there is risk in everything we do, but is that risk?
And last point is without compromising the user experience.
Absolutely.
That is the most important.
Correct. User experience is going to be tremendous, right? That's going to be in the agenda, because today we are in a state where we are talking about an attention span of few seconds. right? So if you're in a fintech industry and you're spinning off an application for the users to use, and if that experience of using that application is not going to be useful, smooth, people are going to not use it, right? So it's going to have a direct impact in terms of the revenue streams, direct impact on your brand reputation. And sometimes that application in itself will drive customers away, right? So we may be able to hold on to the traditional customers who have that brand patriotism, but the modern young generations may not stick around, right? So
Yes.
that brings us to another interesting area where we say we need to look at security a lot, but in our domain, we have noticed that every single day there are new vulnerabilities found. And to the extent the attackers and the attack sophistication has gone to the extent no click to one click attacks or one click to no click attacks, right? How should the CISOs and the DPOs be, looking at this, or what should be they doing to minimize the vulnerability so that they can stay secure?
Yeah, yes, vulnerability management is a kind of very challenging area for any security professional. The first and foremost challenge in vulnerability management is, as I rightly said, visibility. You should have full visibility of the assets what you have in your organization. That is the first and foremost requirement. And then we should have a comprehensive security management policy. We have to define if any vulnerabilities are found out, what is our way out? What is the stakeholders' responsibility? The asset owner or the application owner, the IT owner, what are the timelines? What is the way to do the patching and all without interrupting the business applications? And also taking care of security vulnerabilities are not exploiting the organization's internet facing or intranet applications, thereby impacting the organization. So this being the main, a kind of a flow for vulnerability management. So there are some new ways of proactive things or proactive initiatives we are looking at. Like if you go by traditional way of vulnerability assessments and penetration testing, IT people are flooded with thousands and thousands of vulnerabilities. Okay, so just to make it more effective and more to the point and to the risk-based vulnerability, management. So we need to bring that risk aspect into the vulnerability assessment and management. And any vulnerability found, what is its criticality? What is the criticality of the asset? What is the criticality of the vulnerability? And there are some new ways of discussing this vulnerability rating and prioritization. Even if you have found out a vulnerability with criticality, as per the tool or as per the technology assessment, whatever you have done, the most challenging part is how to prioritize it. Even though it is by the tool, it may be high, but for the environment in which you are working, that may not be high sometimes. And for that reason, this risk matrix we should create, critical that asset exposure to the internet, criticality, what data it consists of, and then there are some few more parameters, what so-called vulnerability EPSS scoring system. There is a new concept has come in the industry, exploit probability scoring system. So it tells you that particular vulnerability is already being exploited or is in the news in the wild that it's going to be exploited by some of the hacking groups. So that gives us a extra edge to you to prioritize. Yes, this one is most important. Sometimes it may be medium or it may be low as well. But as per your threat intel sources, you come to know that this is most critical and it is going to be exploited very soon in a week, 2 weeks, or a month. So with that kind of a baseline as a security professional, you can demand and you can ask the IT team to, these are the ones quickly we should remediate to avoid the immediate risk. So like that, there are that is the reason I'm trying to highlight vulnerability management is it's not a point in time or it's not a this thing. It should be a continuous activity. It should be a kind of continuous journey. So typical way of doing monthly assessments, quarterly assessments may not help nowadays. That's
I
how we have to make it more continuous, more risk-based, and more threat intel-based, made to the point.
Absolutely. So point in time security is no longer valid, right? And I think that everybody would acknowledge. And I think it is also important the boards, the management also understand the importance of continuous security monitoring and vulnerability assessment and management. I want to touch on two aspects on the same point on the vulnerability management. There are two aspects in my mind I feel requires focus. One is the human side of it, the people who develop these applications. The second aspect is the tools and techniques, right? So traditionally people code, but in the last few years, we've been hearing words like DevOps, and then people said shift left, and people are now talking about DevSecOps. Can you share some insights, some tips as to what people should be actually doing? If people are not doing this, what should be they doing? Well, where should they start? So that is one. Where should they start? Second one is for those people who are doing it, what are those things you would want them to go back and check again? Ramesh?
So yeah, that's really a very interesting and more I would say most impactful aspect of security, DevSecOps. Why? Because we just discussed about vulnerability management, right? That
Absolutely.
is becoming complex, very tough because the application development stage has neglected that aspect of security. So thereby, in fact, I mentioned in the earlier question also, which will eventually, increase the man and machine efforts and cost as well. So that is the reason it is high time for everybody to look at something called DevSecOps. We should bring in security piece right from the design and implement what we call the development coding stage itself. Each and every stage of SDLC should have a security imbibed or integrated very tightly, very closely. If you go by these regulatory requirements like GDPR and upcoming DPDPA, so there are concepts called security by design and privacy by design. So all those aspects can be very seamlessly implemented during DevSecOps only. For that, yes, I understand the point what you raised is the people issue, because developers may be very talented or very experienced in doing the coding. They may not be knowing the security standards, security expectations, right? So for that purpose, so we should bring in that training piece and a kind of a security mindset in the developers, giving them proper training and creating something called security coding practices and adopting best practices from industry standards like WAS, NIST and all, which will, pave a kind of way to the developers to keep security in their mind whenever they are doing a code of any line or code of any size. So that's what I would put across. DevSecOps is a imminent security practice everybody should bring it. And then we have to bring that security culture in the developers community by giving proper training, proper certification, and also the proper governance creating around DevSecOps.
Absolutely. And I think you're hitting a very important point in terms of training. Now, IC2 has a certification which is specializing in software development, certified in software development life cycles. Right? So I think that's one good certification for those people who are software developers or who are probably project managers and who are in the software development program to consider, right? And those of others who are probably entering the industry or trying to get into this space, they may also look at certified in cybersecurity, the entry-level certification program. So with that, I just want to quickly, move on to an area. In terms of you started the conversation with visibility in mind, right? So you said we need to have visibility. What kind of visibility should we as CISO or a DPO should be making to the management? What would they like to see? Or what should we be telling them, guys, this is something which you need to be aware of, or this is what the current status is. So what's your thought on that, Ramesh?
Yeah, that is absolute necessity for any security leader to present the security portion of the organization to the management and the board. So for that, the quick KPIs, what I would suggest in my view is like we should bring in the coverage of security vis-a-vis how many inventories are, what kind of a visibility we have, level of visibility we have, and the level of coverage of security. And then how much we are complying to the legal and regulatory requirements, compliance status, and what is the risk, open risk, in terms of number of vulnerabilities, number of security incidents which are open. And thereby, if something is known and something is open, if you are not able to close it, how you are going to protect your organization against that open risk in the form of compulsory controls? What is the plan of action or a roadmap for ensuring that that open risk will not create an impact? And then also some of the aspects in terms of, which includes, see, this topic being API security, the visibility which we can clearly carve out in terms of DevSecOps and application, number of applications, number of APIs, number of security vulnerabilities and open findings. That visibility we can give as a separate line item. Otherwise, as a whole, we can present security posture of organization in terms of our compliance level, open risk, and the number of threats being identified and being addressed, and what is a human and organization culture bringing in, what are the initiatives we are taking, and what is the efficacy of those awareness initiatives. These are some of the parameters and KPIs we should continuously present to our management to give
Excellent.
more and more visibility.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask one last question from you, right? CISOs, that role has kind of taken shape in the last few years, right? And today, when you say you're a chief information security officer in an organization, people understand what that role entails and where you sit in the organization. The new role, which everybody is talking about, at least in this part of the world, is the data protection officer. Right? So how do you perceive this role emerging? Can anybody become a data protection officer? Or are there any specific talent, skills, certifications they need to have? And the second part of the question is, you're wearing two hats, right? So how do you manage when you get into a conversation in answering security questions as a CISO and privacy questions as a DPO, right? So I sometimes jokingly ask people, do you carry two caps so that you wear one and say, hey, now I'm this one, or do you wear this one and say, I'm this one? Right? What are your experience?
Yeah, just to start with, I'm designated as DPO just recently only. So I have not delivered much. I just started my journey as DPO. The second part is the question of you asked about what should be the qualifications or experiences a DPO should have. Yes, DPO role is a bit different from CISO role because CISO's role is completely infosec and cybersecurity management of a organization. The DPO specific to data protection and data privacy aspects are bringing in, which are very nascent in, at least in our country like India. Of course, it is globally, it is picking up privacy. Almost 95 plus countries are having privacy related regulations. So for that purpose, yes, to start the journey of a data privacy of any organization, the ultimately what in my view, in my opinion, data privacy ultimately boils down to data security, right? Data security, more or less, it is already in the kitty of CISO, information security, data security. So having said that, this DPO not only just entails data security, it has a lot of other aspects of legality and regulatory aspects and front-ending with the board of the privacy and customers sometimes, all that. So for that purpose, definitely this role needs more exposure in terms of data privacy regulations, some legal aspects, and some of the compliance aspects. They are mixed together. This DPO role will evolve day by day. And again, as the exact ground rules comes out from our government of India, in India, that shape and size of the DPO role can be exactly defined. Otherwise, to start with, yes, we can set the tone and set the ball rolling just by taking stock of what we have in terms of data security and how to bring that security piece to comply with data privacy requirements. That's what I would say. And yeah, that qualification wise is some of the certifications are coming up in the market. The one or two good certifications which are more focused to on DPDPA and other privacy regulations will definitely help the DPO role.
And I think the DSCI, Data Security Council of India, also
Yeah,
has
DSE
been
is doing that.
working a lot for a couple of years. ISC2 has been collaborating with them as well. And I think there are various other industry certifications which are out there for people to pursue if they want to. It has been a very insightful, thought-provoking conversation, Ramesh. So my takeaway is secure by design, privacy by design. So we need to start there. So we need to shift left and
Yes.
also adopt secure DevOps, right? So we need to look at the people side of it, the process side of it, and the technology side of it. And what was most striking in this conversation is to have that visibility, right? In terms of what you have in terms of an inventory, manage the life cycle of all those APIs with a very structured process in terms of managing the vulnerabilities of it. So not everything can work perfectly because there are zero-day risks which probably could surface from time to time. So do we have a process in place to address? Because these applications which actually use the APIs are business critical, right? And sometimes it's customer facing. And in that context, application downtime or a security breach may not be acceptable, especially from a regulator's point of view, right? So which also means the privacy part of it now has to be baked into every application which is being developed. And everybody should understand what the API's role is. So we are bringing in a subtle way, the concept of need to know, need to do, need to use. Isn't it?
Yes.
Then we are also
Absolutely.
building in the concepts of least privilege. So when you say least privilege, then you get into the authentication. So every subject, be it a human or a non-human, accessing data using an API has to get authenticated, and the rest of it goes in, right? So we are talking about protection at all layers, detection at all layers, and have a robust incident response and management plan. So Ramesh, before I wrap up the conversation, do you want to share any closing remark, anything which you just want to tell the audience? Hey guys, these are three things I would like you to, get started or keep an eye on. Ramesh.
Yeah, sure. See, threats are going to increase day by day. We cannot stop the threats. And at the same time, we cannot stop the digitization, digital evolution. And it's like a cat and mouse race. Technology beams up, explodes. And before that, hackers and the criminals, they take advantage of that new technology and try to impact and breach the data, get impact and try to get their nefarious, targets. So having said that, the only way out is we need to be more proactive, more integrated with the business and technology, and use the technology itself, the latest, whatever the technology is coming up, we should use the same technology to bring in like security and privacy into our organization's ecosystem. Like the best example is AML. AML is like being used like anything for businesses. Everything is possible. So similarly, that is being used by the cyber criminals as well. So now the cyber security professionals should immediately try to exploit that technology to make our organization safe and secure. And API being one of the aspects of the entire ecosystem of IT technology and infosec domain. So we should bring in with more and more proactive methodologies and frameworks to be a step behind, not to be behind the criminals. In fact, we should be 10 steps ahead of them, ensuring and using new technologies like AIML, zero trust architecture. You mentioned about least privilege, all that. So all those concepts can be implemented on a rigorous basis, and with the collaboration, industry collaboration and cross-functional collaboration and community-driven public-private partnership, all must come together and make our own organizations safe and secure, and our nation and the society, everybody should be, you know, have a kind of a place where we are safe and secure enough to live and continue.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Ramesh, thank you so much. The conversation has been very insightful. I made a lot of notes for myself to take it back and share it with my peers, my friends, and my colleagues. And I'm sure those of you who are watching this conversation would also benefit out of it. Ramesh, thank you so much once again for making time to have this chat with me. And I'm going to invite you again to have another interesting topic on another subject, which probably is gaining traction and is going to be the focal point of conversation shortly. So with that note, wishing you all the best, Ramesh. Right. Thank you. And we thank you on behalf of IC2 Colombo chapter, the board and the committee, and all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sujit. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, everyone.